All right, this is going to correspond to your AZAR activity exercise 9.5 through 9.9. These are pages 164 through 173. What we'll be learning today, we'll be expressing necessity using must, have to, have, got to. We will be doing lack of necessity and prohibition using have to and must in the negative. We will be using the past forms of should, and finally we'll be using be supposed to and its form. All right, 9.5, page 164, I'll be referencing the must take and have to take are basically the same thing. They mean that it needs to be done. It's necessary. You are going to use have to in discussion more because that must is seen as too strong to use in language. Formation. With the must, basically you're using the modal must and you use the simple first person present tense form of the verb. So you can see in the example, he must take the exam, you're not conjugating it. So you're not going to say he must takes the exam. Now, another way, as we were saying, to say that is he has to. So again, with this particular form, you will conjugate the have part. So he has to take the exam or I have to take the exam. Following that verb, you will use the infinitive to take, or whatever verb you are referencing. Have got to means you need to do it. It's used in spoken English. The more formal version is I have to. So I have got to go now, or I have to go now. Now keep in mind that sometimes this will be reduced when you're speaking. So I have to be home by 8 is going to come out is I have to. I have to be home by 8, and he has to go to a meeting is going to come out as he has to. Past necessity, if you're going to express something that you had to do in the past, you will use the form I had to study last night. This is showing something that you had to do yesterday or in the past. There is no past form of must, so you cannot, there's no way to express something that you must do in the past. For that, you will just use the I had to. All right, we are now on 9.6. This is page 5. So we're looking at lack of necessity, must and have to. They have different meanings in the negative. So do not have to means you don't have to do it. It doesn't have to be done. There is no necessity to do it. Must not means don't do this. You can see this in the different meanings that they have in the negative is you must not cheat. This is basically saying you can't. It is against the rules. Versus you do not have to come to class next week, which means there is no need. You don't have to do it. All right. So that's 9.6. Moving on, we're on 9.7, and I will be referencing the chart there, page 177. Advisability. Again, this means advice. Should and ought to. Basically, this should and ought to is sort of a long kind of continuum. At its most weakest, it's a good idea. At its most strongest, it's your duty. It's something that you need to or have to do to be a good. So formation, again, we're not conjugating. He should study. The should is the modal. The study is left in that first person present tense form. He ought to study. Again, ought to comes together and the verb is not going to be conjugated. So we would never say he should studies or he ought to studies. It's staying in that first person present tense form. Again, in both you are not conjugating. Had better. Basically, this is something bad will happen if you don't do it. You had better stop for gas versus you had better not be late. Basically, these are things that you should let happen or something bad is going to happen. I want you to note that when you're dealing with the negative form of had better, you simply slip the not in after. All right. Okay, 9.8, this is page 170. Looking at the formation of the past form. So this is using should in the All right, so what is a should have? It's usually to express a mistake or a bad idea. I should have studied for my exam. You made a mistake. You should have studied, but you didn't. You did not study, and now you have a problem because you probably failed it. I should not have carried the heavy box. Basically, you carried this heavy box. Now your back hurts, and you're taking 3 on leave, and you have a heating pad on your back because it was a bad idea. All right, so now we're moving on to 9.9. This is going to correspond to page 173, and just kind of look at the chart as I'm. So be supposed to, it means that there's an expectation of something that is happening. The game is supposed to begin at 10 o'clock. So you expect the game to begin at 10 o'clock. It may not begin at 10, they may be running late, but it is your expectation that the game will be at 10. The children are supposed to put their toys away. This is an expectation of behavior. You expect your children to put the toys away. Jack was supposed to call me last night. As you can see, this is being expressed in the past, so it's an unfulfilled expectation. You expected Jack to call and he didn't. So basically, if you are conjugating the verb in the present, you have the be verb, present, is, or are, depending on the subject. It's an expectation that you expect to happen. If it is conjugated in the past, it means it was supposed to happen, it didn't. All right, so here is your practice. This will be due Tuesday, February 24th. I will be grading it and collecting it, so please do. In your student book, I would like you to complete warm-up exercise 30, page 172, warm-up exercise 35, page 175. In your workbook, please see the following. Practice 87. Page 87, practice 5, page 88, practice 6, page 88, practice 7, page 89, practice 8, page 89, practice 9, page 89, practice 10, page 90, practice 11, page 91, practice 12, page 91, practice 13, and page 92, practice 14.